Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church. Welcome, Reverend Monica Dobbins, to the First Unitarian Church. It's wonderful to have you with us. Our congregation has been curious about its new assistant minister. I've received a ton of questions. And so in our conversations, the congregation, members of the congregation, are pleased to hear that Monica received her Master's of Divinity, a recent graduate from Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. And they smile affirmatively that her undergraduate degree comes from the University of Alabama, probably the first minister in the history of this church that had any ties to the University of Alabama. Her contract stipulates, however, she must become a Ute fan by the time the new season kicks off in late August. But we'll give her some time. The congregation has been encouraged that her supervising minister in the UU Church in Tuscaloosa, where she did her internship, thinks she walks on water. But it's not until I was forced to add, when people said, well, what else has she done? And I said, well, along the way to ministry and arriving in Salt Lake City, she's had many fascinating odd jobs, including a couple of years as manager of a wine store. And then they just exploded with glee. It's almost like the slot machine went off. Winner, 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 ding, 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 ding. I think that says a lot about our congregation. I don't know. Today represents a huge beginning in the life of this church. We have committed to sustaining 2 ministers on staff in order to serve this growing congregation more effectively. And with 2 ministers, we will be better able to serve the larger community, which increasingly needs the voice of compassion and deeds of justice in these very troubling times. Our search committee, comprised of Marlon Taylor as chair, and Teresa Derringer, Derek Gernstorff, Christine Ashworth, Marion Johnson, Lisa Mountain, Jack Avery, invited Monica to our church because they discerned 3 remarkable areas of distinction: a poised and articulate woman, a woman whose personal spiritual journey runs deep and rich, and a minister who truly walks the walk for social justice. Monica will move here with her family next month. Today is just a wave, a quick hello, a greeting. And we timed this to coincide with our church picnic, so everyone will have just perhaps a little more time in order to greet her warmly. I look forward very, very much working together with Monica over the years. The ministry at First Church will become stronger. Symbol of light and of knowledge, symbol of warmth and freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love. So may we open up our service by turning our hymn books, please, to number 347.
On Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye to Canaan's fair and happy land where my possessions lie. I am bound for the promised land. These words were sung just last weekend by the choir at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham, Alabama, at the service of my ordination to this ministry. And while I asked them to sing this hymn because it fit with the overall theme of the service, it wasn't until this week that I realized that by today, I would actually be standing near the banks of the Jordan River in Salt Lake City, having arranged for all of my possessions to meet me here in a 16-foot container. In Hebrew myth, crossing over Jordan had a connotation of doing the impossible in order to gain a reward beyond imagination. In Alabama's civil rights struggle, the impossible task that Jordan represented was the recognition of human rights of African Americans and the achievement of a truly equitable society for all people. It is that task to which I have been called in this ministry, and it is my sincere hope that each of you will join me in it, in a spirit of courage and mutual support. It is my great honor to be here with you in Zion, and I look forward to hearing each of your stories and sharing mine with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this incredible opportunity.
a good day is each Sunday the choir sings. Thank you, choir. It's been a wonderful year. You've done so much beyond singing. It's just been an incredible year. David Owens, Holly Stewart, thank you all so very, very much. Just a couple of quick announcements. Please take the time to read all the announcements in the order service. Let me just highlight that following our service, there will be a coffee hour, but also a picnic. And it's going to be at Sugar House Park, and I hope everybody will wind their way eventually to Sugar House Park for our end of the year picnic. And end of the year means end of our traditional worship services, and beginning next Sunday, another absolutely phenomenal summer forum series will begin. So every Sunday throughout the summer will be a rich experience, and hope that as many of you as possible can make it out on Sunday mornings. Also wish to announce that on Tuesday night, day after tomorrow, Tuesday night, we will continue in, well, some of you know this because you've been to the first one. Our Social Justice Council really wants to pursue, and rightly so, ways to understand and ways to communicate better with people who hold a different ideological point of view from our own. And so we're going to present yet another TED Talk to really kick things off with a wonderful discussion to follow. So that'll be Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We'll run from 7 to 9 in Elliott Hall Tuesday night, and it'll be good to see you there. For now, the offering will gratefully be received, a chance to greet one another and wish each other a good morning.
A poem by Wallace Stevens. The house was quiet, and the world was calm. The reader became the book, and summer night was like the conscious being of the book. The house was quiet, and the world was calm. The words were spoken as if there was no book, except that the reader leaned above the page, wanted to lean, wanted much, most to be the scholar to whom his book is true, to whom the summer night is like a perfection of thought. The house was quiet because it had to be. The quiet was part of the meaning, part of the mind, the access of perfection to the page, and the world was calm. The truth in a calm world in which there is no other meaning itself is calm. Itself is summer and night. Itself is the reader leaning late and reading there. A summer day in the deep south is not an adventure for the faint of heart. Imagine wearing a blanket into a sauna with a blistering lamp overhead. Add the screaming of millions of enormous swarming insects in the trees, and you're getting kind of close. A random breeze is so rare that it can literally stop people in their tracks. A breeze break. Even when the sun goes down, it's not yet safe. We also wait for the mosquitoes to go down. You haven't been bitten by a mosquito until you've been bitten by an Alabama mosquito. We can just about put a saddle on them and ride them. No, even after sunset, we wait. Then the briefest moment of silence, and then the chirping of crickets, and then the fairies come out. The delicate song of frogs, and the floating light of fireflies, which we affectionately call lightning bugs. And then you begin to hear glass doors sliding, ice clinking in glasses, and laughter. Now the summer night can begin. Summer nights in the South are magical. Southerners, after dark, are no longer prisoners of air-conditioned offices, stores, or vehicles. After dark, we belong to a timeless country, and memory becomes the vehicle by which we travel. The great storytellers of the South are the grandmothers and grandfathers holding court on the porch, with children piled onto laps, with parents and aunts and uncles eavesdropping from the windowsills, dogs curled up at feet. Lamps and clocks have no utility here. Time and light by which we measure the day are folded up and put in a pocket. And darkness and eternity are spun together into a golden thread of memory. This is how the elders pass the passwords to the next generation. During the summer, we are tempted to abandon the indoor God, the God of pews and letters, the God of unison reading and singing, the God of philosophy and theology, in favor of nature's God, the God we can feel between our toes as we let our feet sink into the mud on the bank of a lazy river, the God of a fresh, warm peach or tomato just plucked from the plant, the God of blooming honeysuckle or jasmine wafting through the windows. Summer is a time for worshiping at the temple of pleasure and freedom. I'm reminded just now of our spiritual ancestor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who with his transcendentalist comrades worshiped at that temple before us, who returned to reason and faith in nature. In the wilderness, said he, I find something more dear and connate than in streets or villages, in the tranquil landscape, and especially in the distant line of the horizon. Man beholds somewhat as beautiful as his own nature. He goes on, the best moments of life are these delicious awakenings of the higher powers and the reverential withdrawing of nature before its God. Even as life goes on during the summer, and there are still bills to be paid and appointments to be kept, our hearts call us out into the wild to reconnect with what makes us alive. To worship is to lift up what is holy, and our best worship in this space does not come does not come from inside us, but from the whole of which we find ourselves a part. The happiest person, Emerson reminds us, is that one who learns from nature the lesson of worship. Perhaps It will be your good fortune this summer to follow your wild heart out onto the open road, to a new city or even a new country. Perhaps yours will be travels of the imagination, through the pages of a good book, or learning a new skill, or finding new music or art to appreciate. Perhaps you will find one of our sister UU churches while you're on the road. I encourage that, by the way. But wherever your travels take you, remember this: we are connected. We are connected. We are radically connected. Connected to this wild and fantastic universe, and radically connected to one another. That golden thread of story and memory strings together the hearts of every person in this room. That thread spools out from this place into the world, wherever we go. And a tug of that thread brings us home, home again. Hold on to that thread as you travel this summer. Hold on to the home in your heart, the community of believers that gathers in this place, and the love that never lets us go. Hold on to that thread and let it wind you back home.
Keeping with the tradition of this church to always read a poem twice. This will count as the second time. The house was quiet and the world was calm. The reader became the book, and summer night was like the conscious being of the book. The house was quiet and the world was calm. The words were spoken as if there was no book, except that the reader leaned above the page, wanted to lean, wanted much to be the scholar to whom his book is true, to whom the summer night is like a perfection of thought. The house was quiet because it had to be. The quiet was part of the meaning, part of the mind, the access of perfection to the page. And the world was calm. The truth in a calm world in which there is no other meaning itself is calm. Itself is summer and night. Itself is the reader leaning late and reading there. Finding the Wallace Stevens poem came just in time. I was headed down the wrong path this summer, preoccupied with frivolous concerns. I was going to spend some anxious times, probably anxious couple of weeks, trying to figure out covfefe, which may be key to figuring out all kinds of nonsense. Who knows what's going to happen? And then I knew I become more obsessed this summer with a woman by the name of Reality Winner. Does everybody know about her? I first thought she was a racehorse. only to find out that Reality Winner is the name of an actual person who may be more powerful than Wonder Woman. She's sitting in jail for leaking classified information. But essentially, she was just living up to her name's sake, confronting the bizarre reality posited by a former host of reality TV. You can't make this stuff up. This was going to be my summer. And then there's James Comey, and I was going to find the time this summer to reassure him that I wouldn't want to be left alone with the president either. No. He's on solid ground. So I realized that I was still attached to a world that spins in a fevered pace, especially since the inauguration. And during this frenzy, a kind of America unraveling, the prospect of calm seems a little too remote to entertain. But the image of a quiet house on a summer night serves as a perfect tonic for restoring the soul. The poem brings me back to the stuff that really matters. Now, let's be honest, we've grown restless in the unceasing tumult of a new era. Spite has become a new motif in governance, while truth has been sliced and diced beyond recognition. It will take the quiet and calm of a summer night to reconnect with the depth of truth, a truth that only comes to light in a calm world in which there is no other meaning. The pace of daily life continues to accelerate, but this is nothing new. Even Seneca, the Roman philosopher who was a contemporary of Jesus, lamented that the mind can never find tranquility because it always races to and fro. And he sadly concluded in his little treatise on the mind, and I quote, "A mind can nowhere find rest." Oh, how he could have used Wallace Stevens back then. Seneca becomes the book. Summer holds a certain lure with its inherent promise to quiet things down. Take some time for yourself for a change. And Wallace Stevens succeeds so well in reminding us that quiet is a necessary precondition for any transformation to occur. Meaning evolves when time is suspended, and a summer night is a fit time for finding truth in a calm world. It's fascinating to juxtapose quiet with noise. I'm not really aware of the noisy world I inhabit until the noise stops. And then I realize how toxic the noise. It's constantly present. The chatter, the car radio, the cell phone, CNN, the fire station up the block. Quiet and calm are forgotten until I come to realize that these blessings come gift-wrapped all in a summer's night. The reader and the cell phone become one. The reader becomes the book, wrote Stevens. Just imagine that oneness. Gone are the distractions of our everyday preoccupations. All this multitasking stuff is set aside, and our thoughts and irritations and confusions cease as we stop racing around so frantically. We need to stop before we can ever become one with the elements, even becoming the book that we read in the quiet house at night when the world is calm. Now, this is not to be confused with escapism. We're not running away to the calm and quiet of a summer night. The Buddhist master, Thich Nhat Hanh, teaches that meditation, and Wallace Stevens offers us a meditation. Meditation is not evasion. It's a serene encounter with reality. But here's the rub, one might say. A serene encounter with reality cannot be had without a certain determination to get there, to enter the space by which clarity, if even only for a moment, dissipates the complications of an overextended and cluttered life. The term that therapists increasingly use these days to depict our lives, so often said on automatic pilot, the term they use is mental load. And I can't think of a more graphic image than carrying around this mental load that precludes us from discerning truth, which can only be manifest in a calm world. Henry David Thoreau didn't use the term mental load, but came close when he wrote about people being so burdened by cares and labors that they could never enjoy the finer fruits of life. Now, it all seems to lead to the same conclusion, namely that we need the time, or better yet, we need to make the time to reflect on what the fine fruits, the truth, illumination might mean for us. And this might be precisely what summer nights can offer. The summer night, says Wallace Stevens, is like a perfection of thought. Give yourselves permission to transition from the madness of everyday life to the wealth of insight that awaits you on a summer night when the world is calm. You know, we have many choices as we stare at the summer just beginning. You know, we think, oh, there's so much to do. It's time to catch up on things that we've neglected far too long. We can certainly continue being busy, very busy, and we can try to figure out Kofefi. Let me know if you do. But here's my take on the poem. Get your mind into a state that allows you to replenish your spirit. And do so without a stitch of guilt. Remind yourself that as Unitarian Universalists, you don't believe in guilt. First, go and do it. Hold this beautiful image before you. The house was quiet. The world was calm. The reader became the book. A summer night is like a perfection of thought. Enter the summer night and be nurtured and renewed. Enter the summer night when the world is calm. So be it. Can we conclude our service turning our hymn books, please, to number 65?
Hear these words from Mark Mosher de Wolf. With what benediction shall I leave you? This, in your life, may you know the holy meaning, the mystery that breaks into it every moment. May you live at peace with your world and at peace with yourself. And may the love of truth guide you in your everyday. Amen.